Hello everyone, you are welcome to Code Simplified, and today I'm going to introduce you to Django. So what is Django? Django is actually a web framework that is used to develop websites or any web applications. So if you notice, like if you open a website, you have the front end aspect and then we have the back end. So the front end part is what the user interacts with on the page, like the what the user actually sees on the page defines the front end, and then the back end is the logics of the website, like the authentication, those actions that happens on the page but the user cannot physically see with his eyes, that are handled by the back end aspect. So and Django is part of the frameworks that are used to build this back end. So today, after watching this video, you know how you can set up your Django web applications. You know how you can render an HTML file on a template, and how you interact with your models and fetch some data from your models from your database and render it on the template, and know how you can use your admin page. So let's get into it and get started. So before that, if you want to start Django, you have to first of all install Python on your system. So if you don't have Python, you can find the description, you can find the link inside the description for you to download it. And after downloading Python, you will just pass through the installation process. There is normal is the normal installation process you have been doing always. So after installing Python, you have to install you have to install Django on the template on your system. Sorry, you have to install Django before you have to start Django. So for you to install Django, you search on your panel CMD. So the CMD, then you open your CMD as administrator if you wish, and then you say pip install Django like this. But for my case, I've already installed Django, so you will not see the full process. You'll be seeing some certification, like you'll be seeing some requirement has been already, this requirement has been already satisfied something, and that's why I was telling you. But for your case, you'll be seeing it downloading. So after downloading, then let's create a folder on our desktop for us to create a Django project inside it. So let's create the folder. Let's create the folder and name it. You can name it whatever you like. So if you name it the folder's name, I'll name it Django for instance, and then open this folder. Then I'll open this folder in a CMD. So for you to do that, I'll head towards to this one and say CMD over here. Now the CMD is open inside our current folder we created on our desktop. So for us to create a Django project, you will say Django admin starts projects, and then you say the project's name follows. So in this case, I will say my Django, like this, and hit enter. So if you notice this, it has created a folder inside our folder we created on our desktop. It has created another folder again saying Django. But in this case, we want to create the Django project in the folder we created on our desktop, but not that we should create another folder inside that folder for us to create the Django project, which is some redundancy. But so for us to put a stop to that, I'll first of all delete this and then open it inside the terminal again. And I will say Django admin starts project, and then I will specify my project name, which is my first, and then I'll bring a period at the end, which tells you that it should create the Django project inside the current directory we are inside. So now if I hit enter like this, you see that the project has been created inside the folder as we wanted. So let's open this directory for us to see what is inside. So I'll open it inside my CM, like my text editor. I'm using VS Code, but you can choose to use any text editor of your choice. just the what matters is just follow what I do. So you say for you to open, you say code dot this dot period to write to open the folder you are inside in the CMD. Oh, sorry, in your text editor. So if you open the the folder you created, you will see some files inside. You see this settings.py and urls.py, but these two files, we will not touch it before we will touch it in the future. So in inside this settings.py, this is where you are going to use to set to set your Django project to do some settings, and this URL is responsible to hold the URL names of your application. So let's run this Django project and see what it is giving us. So inside we'll be using the inbuilt terminal built inside Visual Studio Code. So for us to access it, we will go to views. We will just hold our control and then the back tick like this so that you will bring up the inbuilt terminal. So inside this inbuilt terminal, for us to run a Django project, we will say manage.py run server like this, and then we'll hit enter. So if you hit enter, then you hold your control like this and click on this so that you view the Django project. So as you can see, if you create a Django project, this is what Django gives you as a default page. So after that, we will then create a Django application for us to be able to render our own default page on the page. So if we go to the project directory, we will then open our terminal. Let's open our terminal once again and let's close the terminal and clear the page. We will then create a Django application for us to be able to do some configuration. So for us to create a Django application, we will say manage Python. You can choose to type Python, but in my case, to keep things simple, I'll just type py, which represents Python. Python manage.py starts app, and then you specify your application name. But in this case, I will say app. I'll just name my application as app, or let's say my app, and hit enter. You will notice that this this directory too has been created inside it. Let's quickly go inside what is inside this directory. So if you open this folder, you will see this migrations, which handles the migrations you make to commit inside the databases. You will see this admin.py. You will see the apps.py, the models, the test, which is used to test your application, the views, which it handles your request and also responsible in also it is used to write the logics of your code. So inside this app.py, it is where you can use to manage your admin page, and this models is where you define your tables inside your database. Let's take it for inside like that. And this one, it is used to test your application, and the views is where you write your logics and where the request where it require like it handles the request of the client. So for us to go through this, so for now, we will then register our application inside our Django project. So if you open our Django project like this, we have to install our application for Django to know that we have an application to work with it. So for us to do that, if you scroll down, you will see installed apps. So over here is where we will install our apps. So by doing that, we will just bring this command and then type in our application name. In this case, our application name is my app. Then you will bring a comma like this. So after doing this, you have successfully installed your application in your Django directory. So now Django know of your application directory like this. So now we are going to link our URLs to Django so that if a client request for any page, like maybe if the client request for maybe some page like the home page, we will tell Django where to locate it. That is what we are going to do now. So For us to do that, if you open our settings.py file, and then let's close the our project directory and open our application directory we created. So inside this application directory we created, you have to create another file, another Python file inside it. Then you can call it any name you want, but in my case I'll call it urls.py over here. So in urls.py we will say from Django.urls import path like this. So we are telling Django that this is part of our URL handlers. So from it, we'll say let's import our after that we will say URL patterns like this. You have to type as you see it as I typed. So because that is what Django looks for. So inside this is an array. So we have now created a file inside our project, inside our application directory for it to handle our request. So by doing that, we have to go to our project directory like this. If you open your project directory, you'll find this urls.py. So this is a custom, but the one you created, the urls.py we created inside our application is a customized one created by us. So if you open inside our project directory, the urls.py files inside it, if you read from here, you see including another urls configuration. So the one we created is our another urls configuration we created. So for us to include it inside this, it says import the import the include functions from the Django.url. So over here it says we should include this import functions over here, and then for us to do that, we say we should add the URL, we should add to the URLs directory this path like this. So which is telling us that inside this path we will then direct Django that any URLs that comes with this name, so any URL that comes with this name application there, this slash, we should direct it to our application URLs that we created. It can find that URLs name over there. So we are now coming to direct the user whenever the user makes some requests, which it comes with this URL name. So if you open our project directory like this, you are telling Django if a user make request that starts with this name, we are going to direct. You can find that URL name inside our application.urls file. So inside our application.urls file, you will first of all define a request handler, which we can define it inside our views.py. So if you open your view.py, we will then define a function that receives this request the user made to render something for him. So in this case, we will first of all render an HTTP response for the user. So we will say from Django.http imports HTTP response like this. So inside over here, we will define the function, then we will name it any name, like any name you want to name, which in the case I will name it index, and then this function is taking a request as a parameter, and then it should return this request as an HTTP response. And then what do you want to render for the user? Maybe for this case we will say hello there for instance. Let's use this for the meantime. So after you define your request handler, you then go inside our urls.py file inside the project directory like this, and then import the views function inside. So we say from the current directory we are inside, we should import our views over here. So inside these views, we will then define our padding, our URL padding. So we give it a root name. Maybe let's say index. I'll just name it index for this case. And then any request that hold this name's index, it should point to the corresponding view, the view function called the view dot index. So when the user make a request that comes with the application name, like when the user make a request that comes with this name, it is going to direct it to the url.py file inside this one, so that if this url.py inside over here, if it handles it, it will then pass on the request to the view function. So if the request is held by this, the request will then use the request will then render an HTTP response telling Django that it should render for the client hello there as an HTTP response. So let's check let's run our server for the let's run our server again. So to run our server, we say python manage.py run server, we hit our enter button. We are getting an error. So the error is indicating over here. So the error says this include. Oh, I think I did not spell the include well. So inside we can find the error inside the. So this is located inside our project directory inside. Also, you can click on the control button and hit enter and click on this. Now it will send you to where the error is located. As you can see, the installed is not spelled well. That is why it is giving us like that. So if we spell it well like this, so now let's run our server one more time again and see what it is giving us. So now you can see that this is running successfully. So if we open our terminal like if we open our page like this, you can see that it's giving us a 404 return 404 error. So for us to access, we will send a request to this application, and then inside this application then we will send the request name as h index. So we hit enter, sorry, we'll hit enter like this. As you can see, it is giving us hello there. It is returning an HTTP response hello there. So as you can see, it is giving us an HTTP response saying the hello there we specified inside our views. So if we open our views like this, it is giving us this hello world views. It is hello there we change. So if you change it over here and say hello world, and go back and refresh it, you see that it has changed to hello world. So for now, we are returning HTTP response. So let's learn how you can render an HTML file on the page. So for you to do that, Django, you have to create a special folder called templates. This templates is where Django looks at when it is searching for any template file, like the HTML files. This Django is programmed to look inside this templates to find this file. So for us to do that, we will create the template folder inside our application, inside our app folder. So inside this app directory, we will create a folder called templates. And please, you have to know, you have to name it as it is template. So inside this template is where we are going to define, or we are going to create our HTML files inside. So inside this templates folder, we will create an HTML file saying index.html. So inside this index.html is that our regular HTML codes we'll be writing. So I'll bring up my HTML codes, and inside this HTML code I'll say h4 brackets h4. So inside this h4 I'll say anything you want to say, anything like, let's do the hello world program, for instance, like hello world over here. So now that we have created our HTML file in our template folder, we will then tell Django where it can find it if it is searching for the template folder. So we can do that in the settings.py file. So inside the settings.py file, if you open it and scroll down, you see templates over here. So inside this template, you know, you will see something called the DL, which is where we are going to tell Django to find our templates directory. So inside this template, we will say if it is searching for the templates directory, it should go to the base directory. So inside this base directory, it can find it inside our application so if it goes inside the application folder, it can find it inside the folder called templates, which we define it over here like this. So now that we have told Django where to locate the template folder, we will no more render an HTTP response again, but rather we will return an HTML file we defined inside this template. So when the user make a request, we then use the request, we then return, and then we use the render method to return an HTML file on the page. So we will say return render and use this request to return and the name of the file you created inside it. So now let's see that if our terminal is working. So if we run our server again, so inside that our terminal is ready. So if you open the page and refresh, let's see what it's giving us. Oh, I think I make some typo error, make some typing mistake over here. So this can be found inside the views, the requests. As I said over here, I think this request is not spelled way right. So say requests over here, and then we will go to our templates one more time and refresh it. As you can see, it is giving us the HTML code over here. You can confirm that by clicking, but if you right click, you go to your view page source, or you can just simple click your control plus U. As you can see, this is the HTML files we are talking about. So if you go inside your HTML file, now you can write any HTML file in any HTML code you want, and it will commit, it will happen on the page. So if you write anything like this and then you go to refresh, you can see the changes it is happening. So now that we have learned how we can render an HTML file on the template in Django, we will then know, let's learn how we can render some data from the back end and then put it on the front end, like how you can pass a data from the back end to the front end. So we will define, for you to do that, we will define a dictionary inside our views.py. So inside our views.py, we define the dictionary over here. So inside this dictionary takes two value, it takes two which takes two argument. Like it first takes the key, and then after it follows by the value it handles. So inside this key, I will name my key as name, and then the name will be Salim like this. So how can you pass it to the template? So now that you are feeding this HTML file with this dictionary code, with this dictionary data, we can go inside the HTML and then access the data we pass on to this. So for you to access the name, you bring your Django template tag. This is called the Django template tag. So if you open it, and you see name like this over here. So if you say name, so we will say hello. Let's say hello the name. So sorry, we will say hello the name we specify. So in this case, we'll be expecting that it will say hello Salim, because this key over here is holding the value called Salim over here. So if you open it, our tag, and refresh our page like this, as you see, it is saying hello Salim. So that is the same way in Django you can write some logic inside your HTML file. So in Django, for you to write a logic, you can use the Django template tags to write this logic. So let's write some if statement and say, like, if this name is defined, it should print this. But if in case it is not defined, so let's say if name like this. So it is saying if name, it should see it should say this, but if else, if this name is not defined, we are going to say something like, if this name is not defined, we are going to say something like, let's see, hello, the hello world over here. Then we end our if statement, so end if inside it. So let's go inside our Django. Let's see if our template is running there. If you refresh, as you can see, it is giving us the same because we defined the name. So now then, so let's go into the view.py and give this key a non-value, so you know specify any name for this key and see what it will render for us on the page. So if you go to the page and refresh like this, you can now see it is giving us hello world over here. But if you specify the name, like you can give it any name again, you can give any name you want. Maybe let's say something like Calvin, and then we go inside and then refresh. You will see that it will then render hello Calvin for you as the name passed on the key you passed inside the view function. So if you remove this and go back again and refresh, you see that it is saying hello world. So now we will then go to our models.py file. So if you open this model.py file, as I said earlier on, inside this model.py file is where we can define our tables in our database. So let's define a simple table defining a human being, like let's say the table, and then for you to define the table, you say class, and then you bring the table name you wanted. So let's say person. So I'm coming to define a person table. So inside this, I'll pass on model, and then what are some attributes that define me as a person. So in this case, I have name. So inside this name, it will be a character type. So and then the character type will say field, and inside this we have to give it a maximum length. So it is mandatory for you to do that. So if you say maximum length, we give it a maximum length of 100, and then we'll come down and say a person also have an age. So I'll define it. This one is an integer type, so we say integer field over here. This is an integer field, but this one will do this. So after we are, let's keep this for the meantime. So after that, how can we actually do, how can we create the table inside the database? So for us to create the table in the database, we have to make migrations for it to be created inside the database. So for us to make migrations, we'll access our terminal one more time, and let's create a new terminal window inside this. So to make migrations in Django, you see py manage.py make migrations, and hit your enter. You see that the migrations has created a model table inside the data. So we will now commit the table inside the database. So by doing that, you say manage.py migrate, so that it will migrate inside the database for us. So now the table has finally been created inside the database. So like, how can we actually access it? We can't see it on the front page like this, but rather we can register this table inside our admin page for us to manage it over there. So inside our admin.py file, if you go inside our admin.py file, we will then import the model we created inside our models.py. So for us to do that, we say from current models imports the class we created, the person table we created, which in this case is a person. So for us to register it inside our admin page, we will say admin.sites.register, then followed by the table we want to register, which in this case we name it table. So by doing this, you can access, you can then control your model you created inside your admin page. So for us to access the admin page, you head towards to your template, and inside the URLs, Django has defined, if you open your project directory URL, you will see the admin page has been defined to this. path. So for us to access the admin page, you have to access this URL with this URL route name. So you say admin over here for us to access the admin page. But for you to access the admin page, we have the password and then the username and password. So for us to create a username and password, we will get back to our code. And so for you to be able to log in inside the admin panel or the admin page, you have to first of all create a super user. So the super user is like the administrator of the password. He manages the administrator of the website. He manages the website and do those master things. So for us to create that, we will say manage.py, python manage.py is super, create super user and hit your enter. So wait, it is giving you leave blank, like we should leave it to use our default name, which in this case is specified for me as user. But for your case, you can choose to hit any username you want, but for my case, I'll leave it as user. So I'll hit enter and specify my email address. So my email address, I'll specify it at init. So I'll hit my enter. The email address is saying it's not valid. So let's say something like Gmail. Then I'll create my password. The password is mismatched. I'll say 123 123. So it is saying that this password is all weak, but for the sake of demonstration, we will just leave it like this and say yes, we should go ahead and create. So after we have created, we can then use the credentials we created to access the admin page. So inside this admin page, we will then use the credentials we use. So my username was user and then my password was 123. So inside this admin page, you notice that the person table has been created over here. The person is created over here. So but if we go inside our page, our admin.py page, let's comment this and go back to the admin page and refresh. You see what we have seen, this is disappearing. So if you want the table you created to appear inside your administrative panel for you to be able to manage, you have to register it inside your admin.py. So for us to do that, you do this. Now if we come back to your admin page, you refresh, this is it over here. So now if you add a data inside it, we will access the attributes we defined inside our admin.py. So if we click add data over here, you see that these are the attributes we define inside the models.py. So inside this model.py, we have the name and then we have the age. So we can then add the name over here. So name, I'll add any name, like any name you want. So the age, I'll say 12 years and then hit enter. So now it has been saved inside the database. But if you access the website like this, so you can access the website by clicking over here. So we'll send a request to the URLs I was talking about, or our app. So we'll send this request to it. So if you access it, you can't really see the data we saved inside our database. So for us to be able to render those data from the database on the template, we will then go so we'll access our view.py file and then import the model we created. So for us to do that, we say from current models import the person data over here. So inside this person data, inside the models, inside the model, you go inside the function that is rendering the page, the HTML page. So we'll define a variable, let's say data. So this data is going to access all the objects we created inside the models.py. So we say for you to access that one, you say objects.all. This is telling it that it should access all the objects we created inside that table. So then we'll pass it as we learn how you can pass data from the views to the template. So we will then pass it as a dictionary to the template so that we're able to look through the views, we're able to look through the data inside our HTML and render it on it. So for us to pass it as a dictionary, so we will say this. So what is this will hold, this will be the key, but this case, this it will hold the data variable as its value. So we have now passed this data to this HTML, so we can access this the data inside this model. So the data inside this model inside our HTML. So if you open our HTML like this, we will then look through the model we created in our database and render all the pages, like the data we added in our admin.qy, if you quite remember. So for us to do that, you will say for maybe let's say for person in person we created inside the key inside the key we passed on inside the views. So for now we should access the for us to access that, we say we should access the person dot name, and let's break this line over so that to come to the next line. So then we'll access the person dot age again. So then after that we will then end our for loop. We will then end our for loop by doing end for by here end for. So then what we are saying Django, we are telling Django that I should look through all what is inside this table, which in this case, if you access, let me duplicate this, So if you access our admin page like this, we are telling the that it should look through all what is inside this table, what is inside over here, and render it on the page. So if we go ahead and refresh what we mean by this, you can see it is giving us from the database what we said over here. So inside this, it is giving us what is over here. So it is saying it is render all this. So if we go ahead and add another table, like let's say another table saying this, and say 40 years, and add it again, and then if you go inside the template, the HTML file, and then you refresh, you notice that it is rendering what it is inside the database on the page. So now that we have learned how you can retrieve data from your database and render it on your template, you are going to learn a wonderful, powerful tool in Django so that you can create another HTML template, another HTML file, and inherit what is inside this one in the HTML file. So for us to do that, we would quickly create another HTML file, let's say index.html, and say enter. But in this one, we are not going to put any HTML code because we are going to inherit this code inside it. This is useful when you are working with, like when you are working in a big project, like in case like the header and then the footer, especially your sidebar like this. So you don't have to duplicately create all this inside all your HTML files, but instead you can inherit one header tag you created inside your any of your HTML tags. You can inherit all of them to pass or to inherit to the other HTML file. So for you to do that, you first of all create an HTML file inside your template directory, and then inside after that, then we create a view function for us to handle that, for it to receive that request and render the HTML on the template. So we are going to return and render the request as the HTML file we created, which is the home.html file. So inside this home.html file, we are then going to inherit all what we created inside the index.html file to the HTML file. By doing that, we have to put all this is what we have to inherit before. So we are going to say blog content. So this blog content then we end the block content over here. We will end block, will end block. So this block content is the code that is going to handle all what we are going to inherit. So this block content will transfer it inside this code for us to be able to inherit also what will come before this and inside this. So in case we put, so let's just do some quick example. Like, so inside this we will extend, for us to do that we have to extend that HTML code we created. You want to, like, let's say the parent HTML code to the child HTML. So let's say, well, to do that we say extends. That's what the extend, right? So if we just, well, let's spell the extend, I think I spelled it right. So we are going to extend the HTML we created, which is in this case it is the index.html, and then inside our index.html we will then bring the blog content, saying this part should contain the blog content we inherit from the HTML. So we end this blog over here like this. So we end it over here, end blog over here like this. So whatever will come inside this end block, it is going to begin from here. So all this data will be fetched from this, all this data will be included inside this because we extended all this HTML codes to this over here like this. So if we do, if we then access this HTML file, we will then see all what is inside the HTML, the index.html as inside the home.html. But for us to do, we have to define the URL pattern, the URL path for the our HTML, our current function we defined for it to render the HTML file. So we can do that inside our HTML dot or URLs dot py file we created inside our application folder. So for us to that, we see, we give it a root name of the root name of this, and for it, if it takes that name, it is going to render, it is going to pass on to this current to the inside the view function, the function called, the function we defined inside the view called the name it is going to pass. That is where it is going to pass the request on. So if we go inside our HTML, let's see if our server is running normal. So if we go inside our HTML, but in this case we are not going to pass the index, we are not going to pass it to this index.html, but rather I want to pass it to this for it to correspond to the function we created. So for us to do that, we are going to access the home backslash and hit our enter. This we get a typo error again inside our, so I didn't spell something right. I didn't spell this request right again. I don't know what this is, this thing is. So if you go and refresh it, as I was saying, it is giving us this hello world. But if you access this, if you, let's duplicate this page and access our app, and then add the index.html, you can see that this index.html is the only one rendering inside the application.html. Why? Because if you come inside the views.py, we can see that we are passing a dictionary that holds the data of the data. This dictionary is actually retrieving the data we created inside our database, but this we didn't pass the dictionary that contains that data. That is why it can access the data. That is that. So for us to be able to access that data inside this again, for us to access this data, this one inside our HTML page, inside our home page we created. So let's access the home page over here. So we are sending the request to the home page. For us to access that data, let's duplicate this and access this inside the index. For us to access this inside the home page we created, we have to pass this dictionary as to this again. So for us to do that, we just give it the same name as we did over here. So we will say objects dot all, then we'll pass on to the dictionary. We'll pass it as a dictionary. I will pass it as a dictionary. Sorry. we pass it as additional. You say let's give the same name over here. So we can do this, and then if you go inside it and refresh, you see that we are accessing that name inside that place over there. So let's refresh the page. No, I think the server is broken. So if you come here and see, there's nothing wrong. So if you, let's run the server one more time again. Let's run the server one more time again. I think something is wrong over here. Let's eliminate this for now. So if you come here and then, I think this error is coming from how we index. In Python you have to work with this in the indexation. We don't have to we have to align anything in line before it will work. So if we open our code one more time and then refresh our page, you will actually see that on the home page, on the home HTML, on the home.html file, it is giving us this. It is giving us the data, the what we can access inside the index.html. Inside this one, we can access this as the same as we can access inside the home.html page. So we will use our knowledge we required to do something simple. But for first, you notice that anytime we want to go to some URL, we have to manually type the name of the URL inside this. We have to actually access the URL by typing manually. So let's create some link tag inside our HTML for us to link it to each other. So inside this link tag let's first let's go to our project.urls.py file. So inside this project.urls file, we are telling Django that any URL that comes with this name, this app name, it should match it to this URLs this our application.url. But in this case, we are going to clear all this over here like this. So now Django is no more requiring you for you to, like, it doesn't have any prefix name for the URL. So now if you request for any URL name, it automatically sends you to the urls.py file you created inside your application. So now inside this our application urls.py file, so if we go here again and then if we refresh, you see that it will be giving us that this page is not found. So inside this one, we can then remove all this over here like this and access the page like this. Then this is how we can shorten it. So for us to link both the HTML tag, if we come over here, let's bring the outer tag over here. So inside this tag is why we are going to link the index.html file. So we are going to create a link tag so that if the user click on home, it will send him to this home page, and then we will create another link tag inside the home. So if the user click, it will send him or her back to the index.html. So for us to do that, we will say in Django, we will say hyphen, then we will bring the URL subar. Then over here we will specify the name of the URL, but you notice that we do not give the URL name. We do not give the URL name inside our urls.py file. For us to do that, inside the pattern.java, we have then you will specify the URL name over here. Then you give it inside. This is the application.url file. So inside over here you specify the URL's name. So in this case, I'll just leave it as it is. So which is, let's name this to us name as home rather. So inside this URL, inside our index.html, we are telling Django that we should match this, we should link this user to this URL whenever this user click on this home page like this. So if we go to the home, if we access our index.html and refresh our tag, you will see the the home link like this. So if you click the home link, you notice that it has sent us to the home URL. If you check this URL, you see it over here like this. It has changed the URL. So if you click back, so let's change the content inside the URLs, the home page for us to know. So let's say in this case, let's go to the views.pl and clear all this data. So we are no more passing any data from there. So inside the home.html, we'll define an h1 tag saying hi I am home. We just say something like that. Hi, I am home. So inside our index.html will define another h1 tag saying hi I am what, just say index or anything you want to put. So if you go here and refresh our page, you say hi I am index. So if it clicks over here, it is sending you back saying hi, because we inherit the index.html tag. That is why we are seeing all this inside it over here. So for us to put a stop to that, let's make this useful, because so far as we are extending all this code inside our HTML, whatever that will come outside this blog content is going to render inside the home.html. So let's make this to be useful. So we'll clear all this page, the index.html, and make it our home, our base directory. So whenever the user visits the website, this page will be the page the website will render for the user this page will be the page the user will first of all see. So for us to do that, let's go over here, let's go inside our the urls.py file, and then inside the url.py file, inside over here, we are going to give an empty root name, saying it should render this view dot index. So it is going to render for us this any URL that is coming with no empty name. We are going to render this view, this index function inside the views, which it is rendering for us the index.html file. So if you go here and then if you clear all this URL and access it like this, as you can see, it is accessing the index.html files as an empty route name for sorry. So if you come inside the HTML index.html over here, we will then remove all this tag and then bring it over here, and then we specify the name, we specify an anchor tag saying it should then locate this. So if it comes to the home page, we are going to say if the user click on this, we are going to return them to which URL pattern you want the user to go. So any name over here. So in this case, we'll be returning them to the index.html. So if you access the home, you should go to the index.html. So over here we will give the name, maybe let's say go back or something meaningful that. So if you access this over here like this, let's bring the HTML tag inside there. So inside our home base.html, we are going to give this URL like so. If the user click, it should send him to the home, which home is the URL name we give inside our URL pattern. So you say go home or something like go to home, anything. But remember that this home or this content you are seeing here is going to render, like you see this content inside the home directory because you extended all this code inside the home directory. This is what I mean. So if you refresh our page like this and we go home, if you go to our home, we are going to see this hello world, and at the same time this home, this go to home at the same time as I'm saying, as you can see, because we extended it to this, that is why we are saying that. Well, so if you click back over here, to send you back to that place. That is how you can map. That is how you can map your HTML files. Your HTML files, you can link them inside your HTML file. You can link HTML files to each other in Django. So we'll then, so let's use the knowledge we acquired to build a simple bootstrap, the header tag and then the footer for, so that we can access that header tag and then the footer tag in all the HTML files we created, and then some basic blog content inside it. So for us to do that, let's head towards to our open your any browser of your choice and search for bootstrap like this. If you hit enter, so bootstrap is actually a web framework that is used for only front end. It's a CSS framework, let's say it like that. So for us, we set for navbar over here. So inside this navbar, we pick any navbar of our choice. So for the sake of this course, I will use this navbar, but you can choose to pick any navigation bar you like. So we'll open our index.html so inside this index.html, sorry, for you to use bootstrap, you have to link your HTML to bootstrap. So for us to do that, we will head towards to bootstrap. So if you scroll down, we are going to use we are not going to install bootstrap on our system permanently, but rather we'll be using the CDM installation process. So we'll copy this code and then we'll then paste it inside our header tag inside our index.html. So if you copy it like this, so inside this, if you come to bootstrap again, you then copy the script, and then inside the script you copy it over and then we paste it inside the body tag over here. So now your index.html knows bootstrap now. So for us to bring that header tag, the navigation bar inside it, we will head towards the bootstrap and search for navbar, and then if you hit our enter like this, then we will be using this navigation bar for the sake of demonstration, for this demonstration sake. So if you clear this, so bring our navigation bar like this over here. So if you copy if you paste it, you then search for this navigation bar, just this one. We just leave this one blank, and then we'll give this link. We just say the actions that are for the first. Let's clear this forms. This form is responsible for the search button, so clear it like this. So inside this over here, we'll clear all this and then leave only one link inside it over here. So inside all this over here, we are going to clear this from it. So if we clear, after clearing this, after clearing that one, we will then go inside it over here and see if the user should click over here. We should actually going to link them to the home page. So we then point the URLs to the name, the home page link. So in this case, we name it home, and then we'll give it a URL pattern. So let's go inside it and see what we are getting. So we are going to change the brand name. Let's change the brand name to Django over here like this. So if you go to the index.html and refresh your page like this, you see that it is giving you this page. So if you click over here, it is not giving us anything. If you click over here, this is the drop down we give it. So let's clear this drop down and leave only these two links inside it. So over here, this drop down is what we are going to click. So if you say, let's clear all this drop down links over here, and then leave only the two links, which is the link and then the home page. So you say we are pointing this URL to the home, and then if the user click, on home, we are bringing him. Should I just say home over here and just make this editing quickly? So we'll say this URL will point back to the index. So index.cmo. So let's say, what are we going to name it over here? So let's name it as index as it is. So over here we'll remember to bring your template up. So let's go inside the bootstrap and refresh. So this is it. So if the user now clicks on this one, you see it is bringing him back to index. So if he clicks on this, it will send him, it says this URL cannot be seen. So I mean, maybe we make some typo error inside our error mistake. So over here, this is what we are talking about. So we make some error over here. So if we come here again and then if we refresh our page and then we click this URL, it is sending us to the index, the home page. So if you click back, it will send us back. So I've noticed that if you click back, because this one is inheriting the base.html, it actually picks all the code, the header tag inside the index.html and render it on the home page as well. That is what I mean by this. You can, in some instance, you have to render, you have to define some a bunch of HTML files in your project, which that is when this parent and child inheritance of HTML inside Django will be useful. So for us, so let's say if in case we have some hundreds of thousands of HTML files, we don't have to define, we don't have to in any HTML file, we don't have to repeatedly define the header tags and then those footer tags inside all HTML. We don't have to do dry, we don't have to repeat ourselves inside coding. So inside this, we will then just return, if we extend this, so this extend is performing all this action, it is rendering all, it is extending all what is inside over here and then bring it in, then render it inside the home.html. So for you to confirm that, if you open your, so this is your index.html, right? So for us to confirm that, if you open your source code, you can do that by clicking Ctrl+U like this. You see, and let's check the codes inside the index.html, and then at the same time check inside the code that if you click inside the index. So let's go home, and then inside this home we will then click Ctrl+U so for us to compare things. So as you can see, you see inside the home, this is the home index, this is the home.html. It is giving us all the code that is inside the index.html inside the home. So if you go home, but if you go inside the home.html code, you'll see any codes as same as what you can see inside the home.html. So that is what we meant by this. So for you to be able to polish this so that it will be more beauty, you can get time and then you can just go to Bootstrap and learn it documentation. It's very simple for you to learn and other stuff. So if you want me to make a video on that, you can comment in the description below. But for us to, let's quickly go through this last code for us to see what we are doing. So inside our index.html, let's bring another tag saying maybe let's define a footer tag. So now we have the header tag and then we have the footer tag. So this header tags and the footer tag don't have to be repeat inside all our HTML files, but rather we have to define it in one HTML and then we extend it to all our HTML so that it will inherit those codes to inside its code. So inside, for us to do that, we will go to Bootstrap. We will go head first to Bootstrap again. So in Bootstrap, we will search for footer. Then if the filtering, you can choose any footer you want, but in my case I will use this as my footer tag. So if I copy this and I come inside my index.html, so just below, just after the block tag inside the index.html, we'll paste your footer tag. So inside this footer tag, because we extended the whole index.html to our home.html, we will then see this folder tag we defined inside the index.html inside the home tag. So if you go inside the inside our home tag and then home and then we refresh, you see what we meant by it. So this is the home page. So if you go to index, you see it inside it. If you go to the home, you can actually see what we mean by that. So let's just bring this footer tag just below for us so that it will be some meaningful way. So if we just do some inbuilt CSS things, maybe let's just bring maybe the margin. We should bring the margin top to be maybe 4:1 over here like this. So if you go to it and refresh, you see that it will come back. So now if you go to the home and then if you go to the index, you see what I mean by that. So the inheritance, this home page is inheriting the whole code inside this index.html, so you don't have to repeat yourself inside Django. So this brings us to the end of this video, which is introduction to Django. But before we wrap up anything, we'll go and recap of what we learned. So I said, if you after you create a Django project, you have to create a Django application. Then after creating the Django application, you will install the Django applications inside your settings.py file. So we did that by doing this. So after doing that, we will then tell Django where to locate its URLs when it is searching for it. So we did that by importing the include function inside the urls.py file inside the projects folder. So we did that by doing this, and then after doing that, we created a customized urls.py file to define our path of our pages. So after you doing that, you then open your view.py file and then define a function to render the HTML page for you. So before you render this, before you render the HTML page, remember that we said you create a folder inside your settings.py file called template. So inside this template is where you define your HTML files inside it. So after you defining this HTML file inside the template folder you created, you then tell Django where to locate this template file. So you did that by opening our settings.py file again. Then we did that by including this inside our code. So that is all what you have to do to able to set up your Django app. So thank you for your time. This brings us to the end of this video. Please, if you find this video to be helpful, remember to like the video, share the video, comment, and enable the bell icon when you subscribe, so that if you upload a new video, you will have a notification. Thank you for your time. We'll catch up in our next video.